Dr. Ivan Henares, good morning. Uh, Vice Governor Ma'am Cecil, good morning. And of course, Sir Michael, good morning. Colonel Roy, good morning. President Ferdy and Ma'am Mitch and Dr. Christine, good morning. You know, for me, the future has always been a learning journey. You meet, people and persons along the way, and that enables you to actually like manifest perhaps those you have envisioned uh, prior years before, and then they grow and they are nurtured and they bear fruit. And today, of course, friends and colleagues of Northwestern University in the province of Ilocos Norte, UNOCOM, and the Commission on Higher Education, this is what has emerged, out of the many years of doing futures and foresight in Lawag and, of course, in the country and the world. Two things, perhaps, that I would like to accentuate from the very start. When I was doing a literature review in 2012, trying to look for into some resources about futures thinking in the Philippines, there was one literature that pretty quite struck me. Among other the literatures that I've read, there were only several, in fact, in 2012 on Google. And this was the book of President Ferdinand Marcos, The Filipino Society, the New Society. In that book, there was 2 pages dedicated wherein President Marcos spoke about alternative futures. He did. And he was saying in that book, in a nutshell, this is something that we need to learn. That was like around when that book was established. And then what I did was to connect with the people who were perhaps a part of that book team that helped do the editing, among other things, and I was fortunate to meet at least 2 people. The plan was, they told me, was like before 1986 was the establishment of a futures office under the office of the president. There were 3 of them who were advising, of course, exchanging notes with the president. And they told me that supposed to be the building somewhere at the Asian Institute in UP was supposed to be that institute. But then things happened, and it did not happen. But then, of course, in Singapore and Malaysia, they were also working in the same project. And for 20 to 30 years, you have Center for Strategic Futures, under the office of the Prime Minister of Singapore, and you have MITE Malaysia under the office of course, the President. And second thing about futures and foresight that is pretty quite, something that stood out for me is that Filipinos has always been looking for alternative futures. I have had a lot of conversations all over the country about futures and foresight. And Filipinos primarily, and in the many workshops that I did over the years, has always been looking for alternative futures. So, but then, of course, what's essential as far as the conversation of alternative futures is concerned is to enable the future that they prefer to occur. No? And when we speak about preferred futures, of course, it means many things. It means a lot of things when we speak about different domains about what we prefer, for example, in terms of governance, economy, society, politics, health, among other things. But then, of course, what I see that's very significant and essential, and I think the spirit of all the conversation and the meaning that they've been sharing with me and the workshops that I had is that we need to activate that hope now. And that hope must be written in a way that it's so vivid and clear that we know exactly what it is. Because if visions are clear, that activates the heart of each and every Filipino. And when the Filipino heart is activated, they're going to sacrifice for it and die for it eventually. Hopefully not die, but live in the process, as a matter of legacy. So, futures thinking, again, it was mentioned that it was not really about prediction. And 2 days ago, I was in Bangalore. And they were asking me, Sherman, is it possible to ask young people to hope for the future when they are suffering in trauma? Is it possible for young people really to hope for the future when they see the future as bleak, that they fear it, that there appears to be some sort of clarity in the future forward? And they were saying, is it possible that we could use this anxiety, to create interest, to create engagement as far as the future is concerned? I've read in a research last year by one organization. Apparently in this research I learned, I was surprised. In that research, I couldn't exactly figure out the exact number, but definitely, it really surprised me. It said that something like around 70 to 80% of the Filipino youth do not or does not have a dream. Wow, right? Filipino young people aren't dreaming. I don't know what that was, whether they were dreaming for something else or were they dreaming for hope. But I would say, I still have to speak to this group, but then they were saying that we Filipino young people does not have any dream about the future. Imagine if you have a large population, young population, who doesn't have a dream, right? In fact, one futurist, the name Fred Pollack, he said that if majority of your population do not have a dream of the future, then you would know what would that be for the next several generations. And really the point of futures literacy is for each and every one of us, young people, that anticipation is a natural mental propensity. It's natural. It's not like scientific or rocket science or math or logic. It's pretty quite much easier even than that. It's a natural mental propensity that we have. Every day we anticipate things, right? When you wake up in the morning, you anticipate this, you anticipate that. Next week, 6 months, any issue that you are a part of or you are existing within that particular agenda or event, is that we anticipate a lot. It's just that perhaps we are unconscious about the power of it. There is a difference between unconscious anticipation. You anticipate unconsciously. Of course, perhaps that's what we do on a daily basis. But the point of futures literacy is for us to know and to be aware that we must be conscious about it. Because if we are conscious about it, then it becomes an asset, a resource, a tool that you can actually use the future like the past as an active aspect of the present to innovate and change today. So that's the point of futures literacy. It is a competency and a capability that we need to have, in the 21st century, given the multiplicity of opportunities and crises that we face today. Last week, I was in Uruguay. I was invited by the Interparliamentary Union to address, 150 parliamentarians around the world. The fear of the parliamentarians is the future of democratic institutions themselves. Why? Because of artificial intelligence. Imagine a future like, people at Microsoft and Google has been saying, because of the exponential growth of artificial intelligence, we might be seeing in the next 3 to 5 years when suddenly you have an artificial general intelligence that can decide on their own. Autonomous from human intervention. What would that mean for the future of democratic institution? That was the conversation. And apparently what they learned is that parliamentarians all around the world, they assume, they're not saying it is an assumption that it lacks the domain knowledge on artificial intelligence. So how would you regulate something that is smarter than you? That was their question. And most of the regulation that we did is always after the fact. It is not before the fact, because you need evidence even before you can, place policy as a matter of governance. But then, of course, they also realize the importance of anticipatory governance, that you must learn how to anticipate things even before they occur. So that when they occur, at least you are not shocked, you are not surprised, and then hopefully it doesn't become a crisis. All types of emergencies does not necessarily translate into a crisis if an organization or a decision maker is prepared. It only becomes a crisis when you are not prepared, right? So those are the things that they've been saying. And in that forum, I would just like to share this quickly, that what they decided to do was to create a declaration, of all the 70 nation states participating in that forum, to create the committees of the future. No, that was their commitment. So they're going to work out in the creation of the committees of the future in all, hopefully, parliamentaries around the world. So they were saying perhaps this is the antidote to crisis, being able to anticipate things even before they occur. So without further ado, of course, now I'm going to present, what our plans are as far as the UNESCO chair is concerned. Of course, even before this, we've been collaborating with many institutions in the Philippines, but this one will definitely amplify, what we could do as far as, spreading the message and the idea and the knowledge of anticipatory governance. Siguro we can skip that due to time constraints. We'll do that this afternoon. Yep. So next slide, please. So our main objective is to lead, pioneer, and amplify the efforts to build the capacity of national city leaders, stakeholders, and partners to use the future as an asset, tool, and resource to transform our ways of knowing and approaches to public policy and governance in a regenerative context. Of course, as you can see here, these are the things that we would do. We've been doing, in fact, over the years, but we will just put it in context now that Northwestern University UNESCO chair has been established. Next slide. But then, of course, our commitment is to support the Sustainable Development Goals. This specifically 4 SDGs. SDG 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure, which particularly focuses on building resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation by 2030. SDG 11, which is, of course, sustainable cities and communities, by making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. SDG 13, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts, which is, of course, a foresight-driven climate action. And last but not the least is peace, justice, and strong institutions. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access and justice for all. Next slide. Okay, so some of an outline of the planned program, projects, and activities that we have. They are not specific, but I just would like to present to you some things that we have in mind. As far as the academic is concerned, developing short courses and teaching programs, which we already did several months ago. Northwestern is now offering future studies to all of its degree programs. Academic paper publications, journal, this is, of course, for the next 4 years. Research projects, lectures, visiting professorships on instruction and research, particularly on foresight. The development of knowledge products like games and toolkits and books and reports. And the conduct of futures literacy laboratories and communication like trainings, workshops, webinars, the development of a website, podcast, newsletter, and reports. And last but not the least, this is very important, is a collaboration and partnership, joint projects with other UNESCO chairs around the world of similar related themes and initiatives, including collaboration with institutions supportive of futures literacy, anticipatory governance, and regenerative cities in the Philippines and the Asia-Pacific and other regions. Sir Michael, and Ma'am Cecil, what we plan to do as far as the program is concerned, and I think this is really one of our priorities, in fact, I would say our priorities, is to imagine the future of the city for the next 50 years. And the province perhaps for the next 100 years. Because the point of doing foresight is really to have a long-term view of what the city and the province could look like. Like just what Jose Rizal did during his time. He had a book, The Philippines a Century Hence. But we did not read actually that book until I learned about foresight, and was reading Rizal as well. In fact, those were the two things that were literature that was compelling to me. The one that was, written by President Ferdinand Marcos, And the second was, of course, by Dr. Jose Rizal in the 18th century, wherein he imagined what the future of the country would look like for the next 100 years from his time. But he was saying, he knew that 100 years from now, it will be a more educated generation. And he was saying that the reason why he wrote that essay was for us, to know that he wasn't sleeping, that he was thinking about us. So that was his message. So again, I hope we could do that as well for the next generation, right? Multiple generations of Ilocanos, of Filipinos all around the country, and of course, the world as well. Again, may the future be kind to all of us. Maraming salamat po.